Why are you holding your
I
laugh?
don't know why. I was just suddenly like, I need to laugh. Anyway, Guten Tag and Buen Dia to
Oh
our
my god!
German and Spanish listeners. Dude, I tried. That I completely murdered it, but you know, I tried.
mean, I think they get it. Hi,
Yeah.
guys.
Hi guys, we have listeners that are all over the world.
I'm so proud of that. I'm actually surprised because majority of our listeners are in US and Philippines, and then next up is like various countries in Europe, and it is so amazing to see that. I didn't think that we'd get there, but hey,
Hey.
thank you.
Hope to mean what? Hope to meet you all soon.
Welcome to Creepy Conversations. I'm Gabby, and I have no contribution to this episode today.
I'm Kalai, and I don't know. I'm in Japan, and my background's in Japan. That's foreshadowing. By the way, I have a question for you guys. And to Gabby, because she's the only one that I'm speaking to right now. Which cult leader would you most likely get along before they became like a cult leader, or in general, which cult leader do you think would you get along, or something like that?
I don't know. Probably someone from Korea, but I don't have someone specific in my head. Oh, which reminds me of the thing that happened to me just recently, like a few days ago, last Thursday. So, for those who don't know, I just moved houses and I have new sets of housemates, and they do this kind of regular thing every other Thursday wherein they meet up with their friends, like they invite friends over the house and then, chit chat and like a small party. So they had pizza. And I was like, oh my God, pizza. And they shared it with me. So we were like eating, and I met their friends, we talked, and blah, blah, blah. And then when things were done, they started to have like this prayer meeting. Like they started talking about the Bible and the stuff that they read there, what they learned and stuff. And I just felt like an outsider. Like I did not belong there. So the whole time they were talking, I was just thinking in my head, how the hell am I supposed to go out of here? Like, I felt like I'm just here for the pizza. But at least like one of my housemates was like, hey, if you're not comfortable, you can just he could tell I was uneasy, which I was pretty happy about because some of these guys actually want you to join or not necessarily convert, but they want you to immerse in that. And I personally just don't feel comfortable, which is why I'm quite thankful that he was open about allowing me to leave. But that was a trip.
That's
that
nice.
was pretty awkward.
Yeah, but at least he didn't shove it down your throat or whatever.
Yeah. That's the weird thing that happened to me this week, which just reminds me, because cults, and I shouldn't even say
cults
this
and what?
I think they might hear and
and your roommate's like, this bitch really just called my religion a cult.
Exactly, and I gave her pizza too.
I fed her, and then she disrespects me.
Mm-hmm. Who would yours be?
Probably, I don't know, but probably I won't follow him, but I would probably be friends with Charles Manson because he was a musician before he became a cult leader, and he was friends with the Beach Boys. So
was he?
Yeah, he was. They even had one of the members produced one of his songs or something like that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And the reason why we're talking about cults is because we're going to be talking about cults.
Cults! Like, duh.
Yeah, and then this week we're going to be covering the Japanese doomsday cult, Aum Shinrikyo, or now known as Aleph, but still...
Why does it sound familiar?
The phase that I'll be covering. They're pretty...
famous?
Known. Yeah, they're pretty known. But yeah, they're now known as Aleph, but I'll be covering the time that they were called Aum Shinrikyo. I found out about this cult. Like, have you ever had those Wikipedia rabbit holes where you like click one article and then go down and see like the suggestions? And then just keep on like clicking and clicking.
And you can't stop yourself.
Yeah. I think I found out about them when we were like in college, when I was missing school and reading Wikipedia articles instead. And then like I think, when was that like 2 years ago I listened to like this episode from last podcast on the left where they covered this, and I was like, I want to cover this for our podcast. And then I was not ready because apparently there's too much shit about this. Anyway, my sources are Cults by Parcast, podcast, last podcast on the left, Japan. Japan. I was about to say Japanese.
Japan.
Oh,
jeez. Our Japanese listeners just left the chat.
I'm sorry, senpai. The rest of our listeners just left because of that. But yeah, Japan, right? I'm now confused.
Yes.
Japan Times. Federation of American Scientists, Vice Magazine and Vice News, LA Times, South China Morning Post, and of course, our best friend and Lord and Savior, Wikipedia. So,
I'm so sorry, I got so...
I can hear you eat.
I'm hungry. Wait, I'll just try to let this chip melt in my mouth.
Anyway, while Gabby eats, so Aum Shinrikyo is a Japanese doomsday cult, or quote-unquote new religion, found by Shoko Asahara in 1984. They actually based their teaching around Buddhism and with a little bit of mixture of other religion, but mostly Buddhism. And despite the fact that they based their teachings around Buddhism, which is like really all about peace and like inner like getting rid of like whatever evil is inside you and enlightenment, or like, I don't know. I'm not a Buddhist. If you're a Buddhist, let me know. Let me know how stupid I am. But anyway, despite the fact that they did base their teachings on Buddhism, they were responsible for the 1995 Tokyo subway sarin gas domestic terrorism attack. But we'll get to know the cult and other members of the cult and the unfortunate, horrifying shit that they've done in the next episode. Because for this episode, let's get to know the cult leader, Shoko Asahara. So, Shoko Asahara was born on the 2nd of March, 1995. He was one of the 7 children and was originally named as Chizuo Matsumoto.
Hold up. Did you say 1995?
1955. I'm sorry.
I was just like, he's younger than my sister?
Sorry. 2nd of March, 1955. So yeah, he old. He was originally named as Chizuo Matsumoto, and when he got older, he actually hated being called Chizuo. Not really hate, but he preferred to be called Shoko Asahara. And I thought about calling him Chizuo out of spite and pettiness.
Yeah, just to piss him off.
Yeah, just to piss him off. But because he's such a trash bag, but people might get confused because all of our sources and every article surrounding Aum Shinrikyo, calls him Asahara, so I'll stick with calling him Asahara begrudgingly. So this dude, he was born with infantile glaucoma from birth. By the way, I had to practice that because I kept on my tongue kept tripping on the word infantile.
Infantile. Yeah, you're doing it now.
Anyway, because of that, it made him lose all of his sight in his left eye and go partially blind on his right eye at a young age. His older brother was completely blind, which was the reason why his family knew that the government offered educational funding for blind people to live and go to school in Kumamoto City in Kyushu, which is amazing. This was in the 60s, and Japanese government already has this thing for
this program,
this program for visually disabled people.
They were ahead of their times.
Yeah, truly. There's not much I could find about how he was treated by his family before he turned 6, which was when he went to his boarding school. So I don't know if he was abused by his whatever brothers and sisters, because they were 7 of them. Not much was his family really dipped out of him. Even though he wasn't completely blind, he was admitted under a rule allowing attendance for children who might lose their sight in the future. So that's why he was admitted to the boarding school, which is at first you're "Aw, that's good.
That's sweet." Yeah.
But no, not really. His classmates said he was a bully. Not a Regina George or even Draco Malfoy bully. No, he was beat other kids up, manipulative kind of bully at a really early age. So that's why I wanted to find out how he was treated before he went to school, because, you don't really just beat up people for no reason.
That's not innate.
Hopefully that's not innate, In an article by David Hawley for LA Times, he said that it could be because he was only partially blind. He was the only partially blind kid in a school of fully visually disabled kids. So all his other classmates were 100% blind. So he might have saw himself
he took advantage of that.
Yeah. What's worse was that he would rub it in his classmates' faces that he could partially see. And he was also physically bigger, taller and leaner than the other kids. If you would see him now, not now, but and when he's an adult, he's tall. It's just worse than it already is, because he's literally bullying kids who have lesser advantage than him. His classmates said that he seemed to be delighted when it comes to torturing them. His classmates were quoted, "For him, violence was like a hobby. Once he got angry, there was no way to stop it." And he would find reasons to hurt other kids, telling them to not do a certain thing, and then immediately change his mind and then tell them to do this thing that he just told them not to do. And when kids would do it because they were afraid of him, he would get angry and punish the other kids for doing something that he just said that wasn't allowed. But he was fucking with them at an early age.
Wow.
He was a little shit. His roommates, because remember, they were living in their school,
boarding school.
His roommates hated his guts, and they recalled there was one time that there was a burglary near the school, and Asahara ordered the boys to stay awake and guard him and the room while he would sleep. So he was an asshole. Yeah.
And he was a scaredy cat. He knew he couldn't protect himself.
Right.
So he kind of bullied people to it.
Exactly. He's asking blind kids.
Blind people.
To protect him when he's the only one who has eyes. Jesus. He can see.
Sight, not eyes.
Eyesight. Sorry. Eyesight. He had like 30% eyesight, which isn't a lot, but
Better
still
than zero.
better than zero. And whenever it was lights out at their dormitory, he would command his roommates to do the opposite, to like, because usually when it's lights out, you turn off the lights in your dormitory and sleep, or like stop whatever you're doing, like studying or whatever. But he would command them to do the opposite, like not turn off the lights and not go to sleep, even though his his roommates wanted to, but he was just an asshole that way. And one time his teacher called him out. He threatened to burn the dormitory. When a guidance counselor tried to do something about it, Asahara said, "All I did was say I would set a fire. It was just words. There's nothing for you to get all upset about." And he would also threaten to, like, I'll shoot you to death. Yeah, the nerve, right? He would tell them, I'll shoot you to death. And then when he would get reprimanded, he would say, as long as I don't really shoot you, it isn't against the law. I can say whatever I like. And he would walk away. Like, this little shit, I would love to beat him up.
Woo.
And because it was like in the 60s or 70s, the teachers really didn't have like a proper procedure on how to handle bullies. So I think even now, though, it's still happening. So I think that's why they just ignored him. And also because I think they also kind of like pitied him because he is partially disabled.
Partially blind, yeah.
Also, the teachers said that he did have a good, quote-unquote, good side to him, which I call bullshit. His teacher said that Asahara had this, like, other side where he had this ability to reach out and then lend an ear to unpopular boys rejected by their classmates. He would be very patient in listening to these people who were, like, rejected by their other classmates, which is apparent in, like, other cult leaders, because he
was already training himself.
Right.
What?
Exactly. They're good at listening to you and making you feel so goddamn important, and will make you say or like hope that there's a chance for them to change, and it will make you think that you're actually the reason why you got them angry because you provoked them, which is wrong. An example of that is Jim Jones. He was a civil rights activist and he preached about equality, and he was very anti-segregation at that time when segregation was a big issue in America, and majority of his followers were black people at that time because black people had nowhere to go because of like the friggin' segregation law. And guess what he did? Eventually his bad side showed, and he friggin' tortured and eventually murdered 918 of his followers by, you know, forcing them to drink fucking Flavor Aid. Not even Kool-Aid, Flavor Aid. Anyway, back to Asahara.
Woo!
The teachers added that Asahara repeatedly ran for student council president, but did not get elected, both in elementary and junior high school. In high school, he actually begged with tears to be made student council president, but he lost again. And then he got like terribly depressed, and he asked one of his classmates, why do I lose? And one of his classmates said, you do show concern for people sometimes, but everybody is afraid of you. Which was like,
he has a thing for authority. He wants control. Like, you can tell even then, because why would you want to be in that position so badly?
Yeah. Like, sure, I understand that he didn't grow up like being rich because he came from like a poor family. But that's not an excuse to be a bully when you finally get what you want. Like, that's a stupid excuse.
There's no excuse to be a bully.
Right? He was also known for being a user. In high school, because they were in a dorm and the only people that could see were their teachers, and since Asahara was like the only kid who could see, his completely blind classmates wanted to be guided by someone their age who could see. And high school, you're more curious, you want to go out into the city, you want to go to malls, go to restaurants, and because of that they would go to Asahara and offer to pay stuff for him. That part I kind of understand. Like, sure, everybody has their own hustle, but he was also vocal about wanting to be rich, and now he's like finally getting stuff for free. But the circumstances are different, and I think he saw this as a way to like manipulate his classmates even more.
Yeah.
Like, instead of being like helpful, he's like using these things to blackmail them. He left school at 19, and because he's disabled and his family isn't rich, his options were limited, so he studied acupuncture and herbal medicine. His first choice was actually medical school, but he knew that was impossible.
I got like, acupuncture, and the dude can barely even see. Would you want to be pricked with needles by someone who has like 30% eyesight? Like,
there are actually a lot of like good blind acupuncturists, I think, in Japan. That's like a common job for acupuncturists.
Whoa, I don't know how. The whole massage thing, but
yeah, me too. But like putting needles.
Okay, if some of our listeners know anything about this, please educate us. I'm curious about this.
That's am too, lot. But I don't want to try it.
I don't want to try it. Like, I just want the creepers to tell us about it if they know stuff.
Let us know how your experience was. Can you still walk? But yeah, his first choice was medical school, but he knew that was impossible. So he applied to, because, you need your eyes to be a doctor. So, I'm sorry if that sounded mean, but that was actually in the articles that I read. So, sorry. So, he applied to University of Tokyo to study law, but he failed to gain admission. By the way, that thing about going to medical school or going to study law or law school in University of Tokyo, that's like a traditional route for the elite part of Japan. So you see, he had this like, he was longing to be part of the elite. Like, he didn't just want to be rich, he wanted to be...
He's a social climber.
Yeah. After graduating in 1975, he moved to the Tokyo area where he ran an acupuncture clinic, and he opened a health tonic store specializing in Chinese herbal medicines. And he met his wife there, Tomoko Ishii, and got married. So later on, next episode, I'll let you know Tomoko Ishii isn't just, his wife. In 1982, he was arrested and fined for selling fake medicine, and they were kind of badly treated during this whole experience that it made him resentful towards the police and the media. And then because of that, he kind of like went into like depression. So he went and traveled to India and went in on like reading religious books before like becoming a yoga instructor 2 years later. I think for me, when he got arrested, he felt ashamed more than resentful at first, because he was finally doing something on his own. Like, he ran an acupuncture clinic, and then like he's doing his shit, and then he gets arrested. So like instead of being accountable, he gets angry at the people who are just doing their jobs. His followers claimed that their guru, him, Asahara, would dress in Chinese-style pajama tunics, and they claimed that he had extra sensory powers and could levitate for hours at a time.
I'd like to see that.
I'll explain it a bit later. In 1984, Asahara formed Shinrikyo, and in 1985, his claimed ability to levitate was written about in the cult magazine Twilight Zone. Not the TV show, but an occult magazine in Japan. Asahara wrote in the article, or said in the interview for the article, "Now the length of time I can levitate is about 3 seconds, but this period of time is gradually lengthening. In about a year, I should be able to fly freely through the sky." Now, about the levitation.
What? Is he smoking? And also, is that a yoga pose? Because I would like to learn it.
Yeah. I'll let you know. So there's like this scientific explanation to his levitation. By the way, I suggest you guys should listen to the last podcast on the left, on their episode on Aum Shinrikyo. It was just so funny, the way they covered this whole shit about levitation. So they say that it's a trick of positioning his feet and thighs, and with the help of the strength of his muscles in his buttocks, he could kind of like
make it look like he was floating.
He could push his body from the ground and make it look like he's levitating, or not really levitating, but like kind of like jump. There's
Is there
a picture
book for this? Like, oh my god, I legit want to try this. Honestly,
dude, he didn't even teach his followers this shit. Like, he didn't even he just has this like one picture of him levitating. At the time, during like the 80s, Photoshop did not exist, so people were like, holy shit, photos are legit. But yeah, there's this picture of him levitating. And wait, before I like describe it, let me ask you this. When you imagine someone in your head of someone levitating, what does it look like?
Because you told me he was a yogi, I'm imagining him in like Indian squat, and then he's kind of just like lifted.
And like facially, what does he look like? What's the vibe of everything?
I don't know. I was imagining it like to be zen and calm. And does he look like he's struggling?
Yes. The picture of him levitating looks like he's holding his breath. And now I don't want to sound like a child, but it looks like he's forcing himself to fart. And in the last podcast on the left, Henry said, "Are you sure that he didn't really like fart really hard that made him levitate?" I hate it so much.
Shit! Why does Henry jeez.
I'm sorry. We don't want to sound like a child, but it is what it is. Yeah, I could ask the same question myself, because his face really does look like he's trying to he's biting his lips, and it looks like he's struggling. He does not look like he's zen at all.
I will Google it. I can't take it. Shoko Asahara levitating. Ooh, it's like...
See, it looks like he's like holding his breath or something. It looks like he just fell or something, right?
It's not even... I thought it would have made him look like he was struggling a little bit. Like, he's also trying to hold back in looking like he is not zen at the moment. But this is like scrunched up face and really concentrated.
Blurry, right? Yeah. The photo's extremely blurry. So yeah, his followers do claim that they've seen him levitate. But again, it's just 3 seconds. I think he did that that trick where he like pushed himself using his thighs and his strong buttocks to like push himself off the ground, because 3 seconds.
That's pretty
That's
high
not-
though.
Yeah, I feel like when they took that picture, he fell off something. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because his hair is also like, it's like
Right?
going
And
up as if he was falling down from something.
Right, and he looks like he was bracing for a fall, actually.
That is true.
Right? So, yeah.
Yes.
Enough of, like, trash talking this dude. More reasons to trash talk him. In 1986, according to materials published, what the hell is wrong with me? Published by his sect, he visited the Himalayas and achieved ultimate salvation. And the next year, he claimed to have received secret teachings of Tibetan Buddhism directly from the Dalai Lama, right?
Dalai Lama.
Dalai Lama. I'm stupid. Sect publication said he not only had the power to levitate, but he could also see through objects and meditate underwater for up to 6 hours. In Buddhism, it is actually impossible to achieve enlightenment and ultimate salvation within just 2 years, because according to the teachings in Buddhism, it takes different lifetimes to achieve enlightenment and ultimate salvation. So that's why they choose to be monks, and also gods and monks are like equal in Buddhism. I think, if my research is correct, let me know if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty confident. But yeah, in 1987, he changed his name from Chizuo Matsumoto to Shoko Asahara and renamed his group Aum Shinrikyo, or Aum Supreme Truth in English. Later on, in the next episode, I'll let you guys know why he chose that name and what means. So Asahara applied for government registration, and although authorities were initially reluctant, after an appeal, the Tokyo Metropolitan Government eventually granted it legal recognition as a religious corporation in 1985. So I think this kind of got into his head that he was like, oh, I'm now legit.
I'm legit,
because even
yeah.
the government's like now recognizing me. Wait, let me just drink water.
It's like, I need to, woo. It's all parched. I hope Kyra edits out the crunchiness, because maybe some of our listeners don't want ASMR, but I'm really hungry, so I'm sorry.
Where was I? So yeah, by early 1900s, Asahara had many critics, including the dog in my neighborhood. As you can hear him, he does not like Shoko Asahara, including those who suspected the sect of involvement of the disappearance of Chumi Sakamoto. He was a lawyer who had been helping parents who wanted to free their children from the cult. After Sakamoto vanished with his wife and baby, an Aum Shinrikyo badge was found at their home. In the next episode, I'll cover what happened to them and who were behind the disappearance of Chumi Sakamoto. Despite the criticism, Asahara was sometimes treated as a legitimate religious figure, even by those outside the cult. So he was interviewed sympathetically for an article on new religions published on the well-respected magazine Brutus in 1991. So he was like finally, gaining the attention that he wanted. In the interview for Brutus magazine, Asahara said that the collapse of the Soviet Union had ended the struggle between conflicting forms of materialism, the controlled economy versus the free market economy, and had set the stage for a new struggle, the final conflict between materialism and spiritualism. And he also said, now is the time for people to go beyond the level of ordinary mortality and achieve contact with a higher world than that of human beings. People must now work to become the living organisms of a higher world. This part, spirit, like, he sounds like a for real guru.
Yeah.
And some of the shit that he's saying is making sense, like, between materialism and spiritualism. If you believe in that shit, or if you're lost and you're looking for a sign for getting into spiritualism, you'd be like, I'm down for this dude. And I watched his video. It was an interview in a TV show in Japan in 1987, which, by the way, we'll post the link to our website. This guy seems hella chill. Like, he seems like he knows what he's talking about, and he looks really convincing. And when he was asked, like, oh, can you levitate? Like, usually I would watch, like, cult leaders or, like, new religion leaders. When they're asked about their abilities, they would be like, oh, yes, I can, like, do this and do that, and have, like,
They'd
kind
flex.
of, like, yeah, big airy words. He would just be like chill as fuck and just say yeah, like that. So when you're like, you know, you don't know shit about like religion, you'd be like, wow, I want to know more. I also find it fun.
He stemmed from Buddhism, right? So I think he's trying to emulate that kind of energy. And be like, yeah, I'm chill, I'm cool.
The chill energy. But which is like, knowing that he's a bully when he was a kid, he would beat up other blind kids, and you would not see that bully in those interviews. You would see him like he's crazy because he has long hair, and I'm not saying that people with long hair, aka me, are crazy and like long beards, but he could look like
hippie vibe.
Like a hippie, exactly. That's it. Also, in the interview, the name of the YouTube account was Shoko Asahara, and the YouTube description was like, Reverend Shoko Asahara visiting a TV show in Japan in 1987. At the time, he presented the book Esoteric Methods of the Developing of Supernatural Abilities. And it was basically like he was advertising Shoko Asahara in the description, which was like, wow, they now know the internet. I'm not saying that they don't. They still exist, by the way, so woo! Peace, you guys. Anyway, so once Aum Shinrikyo became like an actual religion, you know, like I mentioned earlier, it kind of got into his head that now he's now legit. He can now do whatever he want because of like religious exemptions. Even the police couldn't like do a lot because of religious exemptions, and because he had like tax exemptions, he now had more money. This is why I think that him being enlightened is like bullshit, because in Buddhism, or even in Christianity or in paganism, earthly materialistic shit will lose its value and will not mean anything to you if you're already enlightened. Like, in Christianity, if you've surrendered everything to God, you don't need, you know, your material things. Or in paganism, if you're one with nature, or like whatever other religion, I'm sure they have that same thing.
Materialism is not a thing for religion. It just doesn't match. There's no connection there.
Yeah. There's like letting go of like the wants, and letting go of your wants and focusing on just what your actual body needs.
Yeah.
I sound legit. I'm just kidding.
Let's make them believe we are.
We're starting a cult, by the way, so we're not gonna let you let go of material things, but together, let's conquer our shit through materialism. So, Asahara gained credibility by appearing on TV and magazine covers. He gradually attained a following of believers and began being invited to lecture meeting at universities. Asahara also wrote several religious books, including Beyond Life and Death and supreme initiation. I actually want to read it because I just want to know how crazy he is, or like how much he
do too.
Right? How much he pretended to know what shit he was talking about.
I mean, for all we know, the book could have been written well.
Right? Probably. The doctrine of Aum Shinrikyo is based on Vajrayana, which I did search before. And I tried to search it, the pronunciation, and I forgot. So I'll just say that again. Vajrayana scriptures, the Bible, and other texts. Wikipedia says that he based his religion, but I would say he copied it, like what I'm doing right now. Copy pasting, but at least I'm admitting it. Asahara had experienced delusions of grandeur as early as like 1985 when Aum Shinrikyo was still starting. While meditating, he would claim that the god Shiva, who was like the god of destruction and god of death in the Hindu religion, that he revealed to him and had appointed him as Abiraketsu no Kimoto, which means the god of light who could lead the armies of the gods.
Can I share with you something? Because I have seen that with my aunt. Delusions of grandeur. And they actually do believe what they're saying. So, and it sounds like absolute bullshit and it sounds really ridiculous. But if you don't
to
know
them it's real.
Anything, yeah. And the way they say it, it's very truthful. Because in that moment, that is their truth. And so if you don't know anything and you hear them say that to you, you would most likely believe them.
And especially this, because he's like basing it on different religions. So if you're someone who's not familiar with religion, you're probably like, this dude knows a lot. He was also, according to him, appointed by the god Shiva to build the kingdom of Shambhala, which is a utopian society made up of those who had developed psychic powers. In 1990, Asahara announced that the group would run 25 candidates into the election that year to the Japanese Diet. I don't know how to pronounce it. But it's a party in the Japanese... It's a political party, I think. Why did I not research about this? But anyway, I'll let you know if I did. Despite showing confidence in their ability to gain seats in the Diet, the party received only 183 votes, which was a kind of a failure to achieve power legitimately. And Asahara was blamed on like an external conspiracy that he was being attacked by Freemasons and the Jews. He was such an what do you call it when you're anti-Jew? Let me Google it.
I don't know.
Anti-Semite or something.
I'm sorry, wait. He was such a Hitler. Let's call him that.
Yep. Yeah, that's it. Where the
I don't know
fuck?
what term you're looking for.
Anti-Semite, I think that's the term.
Anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
Anti-Semite.
He was that. He hated Jews a lot. Let's just say that. So because he failed to like be part of the Congress or like the political world of Japan. This was kind of like the reason why he doubled down on his paranoia, because in him he kind of saw this as like the Japanese people rejecting him because he didn't get enough votes to even like pass to run for the seat or whatever. His members, like him, also became disillusioned. They felt like that what they would call the unenlightened, or the Muggles. Okay. I would like to call them Muggles. They felt like the unenlightened did not deserve salvation because they rejected the teachings of their teacher. Because for them, their teacher is running for politics to help you guys save yourselves, but you don't want to be saved like that. So they kind of also resented the Japanese public. Yeah. Yeah. They then had attempts to stockpile botulinum toxin, but it became unsuccessful. Seiichi Endo, one of the members, he was tasked to acquire botulinum toxin collected from oil samples from the Ishikari River and attempted to produce the toxin using 3 10,000 liter capacity fermenters. In total, around 50 batches of 9,000 liters of crude broth were produced. However, the cult did not attempt to purify the broth, which mostly consisted of bacterial cultivation media. Ew. One member, what they wanted to do was create a biochemical weapon, basically, but they were unsuccessful. Only one member fell ill, and one member fell into one of the fermenters and nearly drowned, but nothing happened to him.
Did they even know what they were doing, or they were just like, I saw this thing on TV and I want to try it?
They did, because Shoko Asahara, what do you call this? He actually had a Ministry of Science and Technology department, and he had a head scientist for that specific thing.
Project, yeah. Woo.
Yeah, he truly believed, because he was appointed by Shiva, he believed that, he should be the reason or bring the end to humanity. But I think it was also because he wanted to kill the Japanese public because they didn't accept him. It was all about acceptance to him, but he just used religion as an excuse. So yeah, they started to create different gases different biological weapons to release to the public, that they kept on failing. The public's attitude towards the cult had become very negative due to suspicions around the cult's illegal activities, because they had acres of laboratories where they would create bioweapons. So they were
They're not very discreet.
Yeah, they're not very discreet. Because of this, the negative view towards him, the police investigated in October, resulted in the arrests of several Aum Shinrikyo members, causing Asahara to fear a police raid, and he then ordered to destroy all the biological and chemical weapons stockpiles, and for the cult to focus on legitimate, non-violent strategies only. But that did not stop him. After the destruction of the illegal weapon stockpiles, the cult relied on mainstream methods to attract other members. Next episode, I'll let you know how they attract other members.
Okay.
But yeah, this included the television appearances and other interviews in radio stations, because back then, in the early 90s and late 80s, people love to listen to the radio. However, starting in late 1992, Asahara's mental health deteriorated further. His suicidal feelings intensified, and he began to complain of hallucinations and paranoia. He then withdrew from the public and then stopped doing public appearances, except for the Aum Shinrikyo broadcasting, because they had their own. That's how rich podcast. They became. They had their own podcast. No, they had their own TV show and their own channel. He was claiming, dude, Aum Shinrikyo became $1 billion worth religion. They had so many businesses under their names. That's why they became like $1 billion corporate, non-corporate shit.
But they do sound very, very familiar. I feel like every time you drop more information about them, I feel like I've either heard about them in the news or I read about them somewhere.
They're definitely like a lot of like lists of scary cults, and they're always there. Aum Shinrikyo is always part of that list.
Like number 1.
Yeah. So, where was I? Right. In their TV network, he would claim that the society was preventing him from fulfilling his destiny as Christ. He now was like, I'm the new Jesus. Because of this, because he was kind of like, he withdrew from the public, they replaced the appearances with like a predominantly female group of top advisors with a more aggressive male group to lead like gradual restarting of a violent campaign to seize power. Like they wanted Aum Shinrikyo to be like this super villain cult.
That sounds so Japanese though when you say super villain cult.
Yep. It will make sense though, but later on. He outlined a doomsday prophecy which included a third world war and described a final conflict culminating a nuclear Armageddon, which by the way, the term Armageddon is only like a Christian term before it became a movie. That's
really
that's only a term found in the book of Revelation. And according to him, his mission was to take upon himself the sins of the world, and he claimed that he could transfer his spiritual power and take away their sin. And anything bad that would happen to him, because, you know, he was likable, but also his cult was unlikable. So there were a lot of things that bad happening to his cult. He would then blame the Jews, the Freemasons, the Dutch, the British royal family, and other Japanese religions. In his most recent book, though, titled The Land of the Rising Sun is Headed Toward a Bitter Fate, Asahara predicted a U.S. nuclear attack on Japan between 1996 and 1998. Excuse me. By the way, sorry, I forgot. In 1992, Asahara published a book called Declaring Myself the Christ. Within, he declared himself as 3 things: the Christ, Japan's only fully enlightened master, and he was identified as the Lamb of God. So he was like, Christianity, Shintoism, Buddhism, I've got it all.
3 in 1. Wait, I said 3 in 1, but my fingers are like 2. What?
He was like, I've got everything. He then was like, oh, my mission in this world is to take other sins upon himself. And then he said that he could transfer his spiritual power to his followers. Now, within his cult, he became increasingly distrusting of anyone. He would do these trust tests, and anyone who spoke out against his ways or anyone who he felt had like signs of leaving, he would kill them and burn them until they were ashes.
Oh, that's fucking extreme.
Right? He was escalating from like being like wanting to get rich. He was now like, y'all gotta keep your mouth shut or else you're gonna
die.
And he got away with it, and his cult members just accepted it because he was using the excuse of reincarnation. So what he would say was that he was taking the karma of these people, and through death they would receive enlightenment, and they would be reincarnated into a better, freer person. Which is a lie, because no one is really free. No.
Wow, he is really sick in the head. Like, you can tell. And I'm starting to believe here that when he says those things, he actually believes himself.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think he eventually probably believed himself, but he used that excuse at the beginning to be like, to get away with
cover up,
the shit.
like, yeah.
Probably like further on in his cult, like he was like, yeah, what I'm doing is actually real. Like, if you say it 100 times, it becomes true. But yeah, to this day, no one knows how many victims actually died, because everything was kept in secret. And because Aum Shinrikyo is now Aleph, they kind of don't want to reveal shit that they know, and also they don't want further negative things towards
it's like
them.
rebrand.
Exactly, which a lot of successful cults do. Asahara's speeches and writings also grew increasingly paranoid. In the few years, he would say that there's the impending doom is nearing, and he was claiming that he was the target of poison gas attacks, and his members would report getting headaches, and he would claim that those were attacks, like gas attacks, by the Jews. But what his members didn't know was that he was actually releasing sarin gas to them, and then claiming that they were being under attack. And he was also, I believe that he was also testing the gas on them, on how much they needed to develop the gas in order for it to be deadly, because sarin gas, it's hard to actually get the pure form of it. So I think that's what he was doing, testing it on his followers, making them guinea pigs.
Yeah. I was about to say
what the hell is happening?
guinea pig.
Yeah, because of all these thoughts in his head and the increasing paranoia, and plus the criticism that he's getting, he began breaking the rules of his own religion. He would, because his religion was no sleeping with each other, or no unnecessary sleeping, he was now sleeping with women. Again, let me just say that. What is happening to me? He would sleep with women and claim that he was absorbing their karma, which is bullshit, because he did say that he could transfer energy and absorb karma by touching them, just by touching them. And then now he was changing it to killing them and sleeping with them. He was all over the place.
It's whatever. Yeah.
Another thing that he broke of the rules of his own religion, because they were supposed to fast and have strict discipline when it comes to food. What he did was that he would command his driver to secretly drive him to fast food restaurants and binge like crazy in his car. And when asked by his driver about breaking religion rules, he would tell his driver that he was testing him to see if he knows the rules and to see if he will stay faithful and loyal to Asahara.
This sounds like a chapter in Biff. I mean, Lamb.
Yeah.
Wherein Biff is like, you know what, God, I will do all the sins for you so you can stay clean, but you will still learn about that.
Right? And he's that manipulative. He could be and his driver actually was like, right, sure, I believe in you. You are my master. Even though it doesn't make sense. Another funny thing, when he was asked about his obvious weight gain, even though, because people didn't see him eat, and
Yeah.
people were like,
How are you
wondering
getting
why
fat?
he was gaining weight. He would say that. Guess what he would say?
I'm thinking like absorbing all the bad energy and karma makes him fat.
Yes, that's it. That he was gaining weight because all of the bad karma. He outlined a doomsday
Nice
prophecy, right? I'm gaining weight during this quarantine because all of the bad karma.
It's like the negativity is making me fat.
I can relate. No. Anyway, he outlined. I feel like we're not gonna be done with this whole shit because he's like so smart with like. He just has a reason for everything. Let's just say that. Like while other people would normally take accountability, he's like, you know what? No, it's because of karma, and karma's like, girl,
okay.
no.
It's like, what I gotta do with this?
Yeah. Why are you blaming it on me? Anyway, he outlined a doomsday prophecy in which a third world war was coming. Like, he got the phrase from Book of Revelation again, and then he would say that Tantra Vajrayana into practice in accordance with the doctrines of Mahamudra. Then, because he believed that he was the reason for the next, what do you call it? The next
Coming?
third world war, or like, yeah, the second coming, or like the apocalypse. He started to lead a series of terrorist attacks throughout Tokyo. And then it eventually led to the Tokyo sarin gas attacks on the 20th of May 1995. Just quickly, this was like 5 coordinated attacks where the perpetrators released sarin in 3 lines of the Tokyo metro and then part of the Tokyo subway, and during rush hour. And they did this during rush hour, so they killed 12 people, severely injuring 50 people and causing temporary vision problems for nearly 1,000 others. It was an attack that was directed against trains passing through Kasumigaseki and Nagatacho, where the Diet is headquartered in Tokyo. So the good
He really
thing,
had an addenda.
yeah, but the good thing was they weren't able to create the pure form of sarin gas. Otherwise, they would have killed thousands, probably, like, through what they did. And also a good thing because there were so many people that saw right away and did something right away to stop it. Excuse me. So yeah, where was I? I'm gone again. Prior to that, they also were responsible for the Matsumoto sarin attack 9 months before the Tokyo sarin gas attack, but they weren't very successful with it. They also released anthrax on top of a building, but instead of the biochemical weapon, they released like a milder version of it, which just caused the public spaces to stink.
Ew.
No one really died.
Oh, which is good, but like still, that's gross.
Yeah, they were only caught with the anthrax attack because people started to report that there was like this heavy smell coming from this area, and so the cops went there to investigate and found his members doing the shit. Anyway,
this place smells like fart.
Yeah, this doesn't usually smell like fart, which is like, it's crazy because if that was in the Philippines, people are probably just like,
We would never know.
that's like normal.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
Smell.
that?
People just do that. Eventually, the police raided the Aum Shinrikyo place, their headquarters, and they were able to arrest over 200 members. 13 of the senior Shinrikyo were sentenced to death. But I'll cover that more in our next episodes because of what they did, and I'll just like go into it like a deeper dive. On the days leading to his death, he reportedly became very different. Kyoto News, he said that while in detention, he cut his long, famous hair and he shaved off his beard, and he refused to go to the toilet and instead started wearing adult diapers at all times. And which is like, he was having mega tantrums because he was caught, you know?
Wow, that is one way to rebel, you know? Like, I'm just gonna shit myself. I'm gonna pee myself. I don't care.
Yeah, I think he was also like trying to make it seem like he was getting sickly, and that, you know, he probably wanted to find a way to escape death sentence. But anyway, since mid 2008, Asahara declined all meeting requests from his family and lawyers. Like, he didn't want to see anybody. In a documentary with Vice News, they were able to interview his third daughter because I think he had...
Wow.
The dogs are being opinionated right now. So, in a documentary by Vice News, they were able to interview his third daughter, who believed that his dad was mentally ill, and the day before his execution, the Vice News were able to film it. His daughter visited Asahara, but she was denied. And then the daughter spoke to the Vice News after, coming right outside of the prison. She went straight to Vice News because they were like right outside the prison waiting for her, and then she showed them her notes of like why they denied her, and what her other pleas were. So yeah, Asahara was sentenced to death by hanging on 27th of February 2004, but his lawyers immediately appealed the ruling. The Tokyo High Court postponed the decision on the appeal until results were obtained from a court-ordered psychiatric evaluation, which was issued to determine whether Asahara was fit to stand trial. Because like I mentioned earlier, if you guys could still remember, his daughter believed that he was mentally ill, and so did his lawyers. They kind of did that to
save him,
escape from the death penalty. But on February 2006, the court ruled that Asahara was indeed fit to stand trial, and on the 27th of March 2006, the rejected appeal against his death sentence. So Japan's Supreme Court upheld this decision on 15th of September 2006. 2 retrial appeals were declined by the appellate court. In June 2012, Asahara's execution was postponed due to further arrest of the 2 remaining Aum Shinrikyo members wanted in connection with the attack. Because Japan does not announce dates of the executions, which are by hanging, they just say that the day after they carry out the execution, that's when they announce that, by the way, this dude from death row
is already dead.
Sorry, something went inside my eye. Anyway, so yeah, on the 6th of July 2018, the Ministry of Justice announced that Asahara had been executed that morning, and 6 others of those who were principally involved. You remember when I said Vice News was able to interview his daughter? That was like right the day before he got executed.
That's brutal.
Yeah. I think the reason why they don't announce the executions, the days of the executions, because they're trying to avoid like public protests, or especially in this case because their cult is very they have a very religious following. They might have
they might cause a riot.
Cults are. Yes, that's it. Why did I have a hard time to find words for that? Anyway, where was I? The 4th daughter of Shoko Asahara expressed her sadness over the sarin gas attacks by cult members on the Tokyo subway system prior to the 20th anniversary of the attacks. So in the Vice News documentary, that was his third daughter. The one in the interview by Kyoto News was his
How many
fourth
kids
daughter.
does he
So
have?
the one younger. I think he has 12 kids.
From different women or his wife?
I have no idea. Probably from different
Sleeping
women
with
because,
members.
he was taking the karma out of them. Yeah. So, yeah, in a recent interview, at that time with Kyoto News, the 25-year-old said, "I feel so sorry to be alive. When it comes to thinking of the victims, the sarin attacks killed 13 people and injured more than 6,000 people." She said about his father masterminding the sarin gas attacks. His daughter said, "My father should absolutely be executed." The daughter has severed links with the cult and now lives away from her family. She said that I felt half sad and half relieved when Asahara was arrested at a cult facility, at an Aum Shinrikyo facility in Yamanashi Prefecture about 2 months after the sarin gas attacks. However, the daughter, she said she believed her father's innocence earlier, as she was told that the cult was being subjected to religious persecution. But then as she grew older, the daughter began to look into the subway attacks after Asahara was sentenced to death on February 2004, when she was only 14 years old. In her late teens, she recognized her father's roles in the crimes and eventually renounced her faith. She also said, this is really sad, and a trigger warning, by the way, she attempted to kill herself several times because she was bullied at school, and she was also fired by her employer when they found out that she was Asahara's daughter. But now she's working with the victims. She completely, unlike her other sister who, yes, they do reject what his dad did, but her older sister believed that it was because his father was mentally ill. She, the fourth daughter, she believes that his father knew what he was doing and that he was completely responsible for it. That's why she's like working with the victims now. On last March 2020, that was the 25th anniversary of the Tokyo sarin gas attacks, and they were supposed to have like another kind of like a memorial for the victims and like the whole thing, but it got canceled because
Understandable.
of COVID. So that's Miss Shoko Asahara, the leader of the cult Aum Shinrikyo.
I'm looking forward to the next episode, actually, because I think it will give a little more definition as to what has happened and more information for us to process all this. Because even right now, I'm still 50-50 of whether or not he was aware of what he was doing, or was he really just like extremely smart?
He was.
You know?
I think he was aware of what he did. Yeah. But eventually, like, it got into his head. Probably he started believing his whatever. But initially, I would believe that he knew what he was doing. And then he was like, whoa, yeah, I'm like a official legit religion now, or whatever. But yeah, let us know what you guys think, and tune in next week for part 2.
Part
2. Why are we like doing the Japanese piece, a victory sign, and the duck face? But yeah, next week we're gonna be discussing the Aum Shinrikyo as a cult itself, how they became what they are, and the other members that's gonna get you, I don't know,
I'm excited.
feel some shit.
So thanks for creeping, you fucking creeper.
And remember, the government's always watching you. And subscribe, subscribe, rate, and review.
It's lunchtime. I'm sorry. Okay.
Bye.